Hello and welcome everybody to this lesson, quotations and comments. In this lesson, we are going to be looking how we can add HTML quotations to text, right? If you are quoting uh, a text that you want to reference, how do we do it? If it's just a quotation of a phrase, you want to show the quotation marks, all that, right? We're going to look at how to do it. And again, the comments, right? How do we comments are not going to be displayed by the browser, but it helps you to document your code, which is very important. So later when you come back and you're looking at your code, you know exactly what you were trying to do. And I cannot uh, stress this enough because there are times you come back and you look at your code and you will be like, what was I thinking, right? So you have to document your code using comments, and you have to use quotations if you are quoting, right? So that's what we are going to look at in this lesson. So quotations. The first quotation we are going to look at the quotation element we're going to be discussing is one that we call the block quotes. And this block quote defines a section that is quoted from another source. So you're going to have the source in there. So we are going to take a look at that. So let's start. So I'm going to have maybe a paragraph telling us what we want to do. Uh, and I'm going to put in there, this is Steve Jobs' popular quotes, right? And then underneath this, I'm going to have the element called block quotes, right? Which is the element that we want to work. And then I'm gonna paste in there uh, Steve Jobs uh, quote, which is your time is limited. So don't waste it living somebody else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. So I just pulled this up from the internet, but I really love it. So, yep. So here this is the code, but you may want to have to cite this code. So there is an attribute that we call cite, right? And again, same thing. We have to put in there the codes, right? And then inside the codes, we have to put in the address of where you found this. So yes, this is the address that I pulled this up from. And so I put in there, I cite it, and then I refresh the page. And then you can see uh, Steve Jobs, and then you can also see your time is limited and all that. So that is how to quote. Browsers will usually indent the code, the part that is coded from another source, as you can see. So another element that we can use is the Q element, which is the short for quotations, the quotation element, right? And that is used to give it the quotation marks. So for example, if I have a, let's say a P, right? Again with the same quote, and I just want to put here Steve Jobs, all right? And maybe something like this, but I want to quote this in quotation marks. So I just put in the tag, all right? And instead of doing that, I'll do the reverse. I cut this one, and then I just put it after at the end of the quote, all right? So if I refresh this, you can see here that it says, uh, sorry, and I got it all wrong. It's supposed to be a slash, a Q quote, right? So I just have to change that. Sorry. Good. And then if I refresh this, you can see the quotation, right? Steve Jobs saying that your time is limited and all that, right? So that is another way you can do it. An element that we use for abbreviations is called the APPR element, and that's when we want to abbreviate words, right? So we have CSS, HTML, they are all abbreviations. If you want to if you want to use them, you have to specify the actual name and use the abbreviation. And What this does is it helps browsers and search engines to be able to find your content on the web page. So the way we do this is, and I'm gonna create another p tag and then say the uh, World Health Organization is not doing a great job. Okay, so this is this right there. World Health Organization, who is doing a great job, right? So the way we add make this better is that we can let the web page know about this abbreviation, right? So I'm gonna put in uh, this attribute called a BBR, which is abbreviation, and the content is gonna be the abbreviation itself. So I'm cutting this and putting it right in here. An attribute you can use to define this is we can actually put in this the title of the abbreviation. So I'm gonna put the title and I'm gonna put in World Health Organization, and I should really take my typing seriously, right? So it's a Z, right? And if I abbreviate it, if I refresh it, it shows the abbreviations, right? So if you just hover around it, over it, it gives you the full meaning of the abbreviation. So that is what the ABBR element does. We use the address element for contact information of maybe an author or an owner of a document or an article, right? So email address, physical address, phone number, social media stuff, you can use the address element. So we're gonna do an example here. So it's gonna be the address tag, and in here we can just put in here something like written by Ahmed, right? And maybe a break to break the line. Go to the next line. Um, email at maybe xyz at gmail.com. Right, and then you want to break this line again, right? Maybe put in the some box, right? Maybe box 1234, Florida. I don't know, right? And then maybe you will say, maybe you need a line break here. Good. So you can just use this. If I refresh this, you have your address, right? So this is another one that you can use to uh, add an address to your document. If we wanted to, we can also, there's another element we call cite, right? And that is used to define the title of a book, poem, song, any creative work that you want to define, you can use the site, right? It is not to be used for a person's name, right? It's only supposed to be used the title of the work, the title of whatever, right? So, for example, I'm gonna use the p tag. Oops, where is my cursor? I'm gonna use the p tag, and then I'm gonna cite the zoom I can type again. The Forbidden City is a really good movie, right? So you want to cite this, right? This Forbidden City, right? So you can put this in a cite element, and then just put this as a content. Nice. And then now you can refresh this, and then you can see that it's been italicized to tell you that It's a site, right? It's a book or it's something you can go and look for, right? So that is how to use the site. So the next thing we are looking at is comments, right? So let's say we wanted to comment out, to comment this HTML, right? A comment is something that we write so it helps us to know what we were trying to do, right? So every code, every document that you create, you need, it's very advisable, and I do it often, for you to comment out your intention, the logic, what you're trying to do, the definition, so that when you come back to it later, you know exactly what you're doing. Or when another programmer takes your code or takes your document, they know what it is that you meant to do. So we're going to look at how to write uh, comments in HTML source, right? The syntax is simple. I think it is, right? It's opening, then you have your exclamation, and then you have two, right? So it completes it for you, but this is the comment, and it's highlighted in green for most of the editors you're going to be using. It's going to give you three in a different color, so you know that that's a comment, right? So you can say, this is a comment, right? So if I refresh this page, you see that it's not going to show in the browser because the browser ignores comments, right? So it's always going to be opening, exclamation, two dashes, and then you can write, and then you close it off by two dashes and a closing, uh, whatever this is, right? So that is how to write a comment, right? So you can put it, if I just copy this, you can put a comment here. Let's say I wanted to put a comment here. I'll say this is an address uh, element, right? Something like this. You can comment as much as possible, right? You can say this is a paragraph element. This is a paragraph, right? So whatever you want to do, you can just do it, right? You can just comment it out, make sure your code is readable and understandable, and anybody can understand what you were trying to do, right? So you have to add, it's always advisable to add so much information so it's easy to understand, right? So for example, this is a comment, and if I want to add more information, I can just say uh, this HTML is needed for displaying costs of purchases, something like that. You can write as much as you want, right? So it's really, really helpful. So thanks for watching. We have covered everything we need to cover in comments and quotations, and see you in the next lesson. Thank you.